Better at Chess Nation. What's up? This is Terrence, and I have another puzzle review challenge. Today is day 3 on the puzzle, 30-day puzzle, daily puzzle challenge that I created that I wanted to do for you guys to show you different things about the game of chess. So again, we're continuing with our Checkmate week. So this is day 3, so we got 4 more days of awesome checkmate-ness. Whatever, I just made up that word, stupid. Okay, let's get into it. So, and today we're going to do the, you know what, whatever, let's get into it. Alrighty, so what do we have here? Okay. Okay, that one was, this one is sneaky. So this checkmate is known as Smothered Mate, or Smothered Mate. I keep saying Smothers, like, Smothered Mate. And the way Smothered Mate works is where you checkmate with either one piece, or essentially you're putting the king in a very tight position, where the one piece that can attack it is also doing the checkmating. So it's different. It's different than just like a queen bishop checkmate. You know, like if, say, there was a rook right here, and this queen jumped here to put the king in check. That would be a checkmate. It wouldn't necessarily be a smothered mate. Whereas if, well, let's show with this example. So the first thing we need to do, so we take note of, okay, this knight jumped here, from here to put my queen under it, to attack my queen and protect this spot right here. So the queen simply jumping here for a checkmate is not going to happen. But we don't need to jump to this square for a checkmate. So what we're going to do instead is jump here. So the king is in check. Now, here's where the smother mate comes in. So we put the king in check. We've put the king in a corner where they have 1, 2, 3 squares to move. So these 2 squares in front of the king can't go there, because its only pieces are blocked. So this is the only square the king has, but this square is being attacked by the queen. So our queen is backed up by this bishop. So our queen is going to jump here, putting the king in check. Now the king took with the bishop, or with the knight. It could have taken also with the rook. Now look at where the king is. 1, 2, 3. All 3 of the spaces where the king could go in their corner is now blocked. So now we need to so now looking at this is like, do we have a piece that can put the king in check? We do. It's this knight. This is a smothered mate. So now there are different variations of the smothered mate. Most involve just checking with the knight. So this is an example of how to get to a smothered mate. There are a few different ways to get to it. So hopefully we'll see some today. But all right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so what do we have here? Okay, well, I mean, this one's pretty simple. So this rook just moved over. By moving over, this square right here is only blocked by the king. So we see right here we have this queen bishop battery eyeing down the square on g2, and there's nothing that is protecting that square anymore since this rook moved over here. And I can see why the rook moved over here. The rook wanted to move over here to try to get a attack on Black's king. Unfortunately, they left a key square that left them open for checkmate. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so this is another example of a smothered mate. So what we're gonna do, so let's take a note of where the king is first. So the king is on the edge of the board, which means they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places they could possibly go. 4 of those places are taken up by white's own pieces. So they only have this square to go, this unhighlighted square. So with that being said, we see that the queen is eyeing down this file, and if the queen gets here, the king is in check, and the only piece that can block that check is this knight right here. But we have our own knight of our own right here. They can jump here, which will put the king in check, and since the king has no spaces to go, this is checkmate. So there's a check, that knight jumped there, smothered mate, checkmate. So this one, I would say it's probably going to take some time to really see it. So honestly, this is one I don't look for enough But I have gotten some Smothered Mates. Not a lot. I can't count how many fingers I've gotten a Smothered Mate, just because that's how rare it happens for me. So it doesn't mean the option wasn't there. It just means that I haven't been looking for it as much. All right, so let's keep going. Okay. So, all right, so we have our two rooks. They're eyeing down the B file and the C file. So white's king is stuck on the A file, right? Because this rook on the B file is cutting off the B file for black's king. So that's number one. And if, say, a check were to happen, if this rook were to move, say, here, this bishop right here is eyeing down this square right here. So black's king could only go to this square. So that's something to take note of. Let's see. So where is black going to go from there? Let's play it out. Maybe, I do admit that sometimes with visualize, some stuff is easier to visualize. Some stuff is like once you make the move, you can just see it. So first thing, there's a check there. So black obviously had to move down there. So what is the next move here? Oh, there we go. Okay, so as I was saying, with the bishop controlling this square, black only had to go this way. Well, now that this rook is here controlling this way, black can't go backwards. So this check brings the king down even more. So now, and there was two ways white could have played this, but they played the move that the game is essentially over at this point. So white could have brought this rook down, but that rook was just going to get taken by this bishop, and black would have had to move down anyway. So black just decided, okay, well, I'm going to move down, and then white comes over. This is the two rook checkmate. So this file is already cut off. This bishop right here cut off that square. Once we put the king in check here, the king only had to move this way. But our job wasn't done yet. In order to get this checkmate, we need to have the king move one more space, because we need to create this gap right here between the king and the rook. Because remember, the king can only take pieces that are right next to it. If it's at least one space in front, the king cannot do anything. All right, let's keep it going. Okay, so this is a similar idea. Actually, it's very similar. So this rook right here is cutting off this file, and white's king is on a back row or a back rank. It's on the edge of the board, and there's a rook on the row or file in front of it, keeping it on the edge of the board. So that's dangerous for white's. That's dangerous for any opponent's king, especially if they don't have a lot of protection in front, because that means they have less leeway to move around. So if we look at this rook right here on D8, we can bring it over to A8, putting the king in check. Now the king can't move at this point. The only thing the king can do is block the check, which this rook right here can block. However, this rook would then be unprotected. We take, that's checkmate. So there, that's checkmate. All right, let's keep it going. Okay, so similar setup here, and actually this is very similar. We have these two rooks on the second row or second rank, and we have a king on the back row or back rank. So first thing we need to look and see is, do we have anything that could stop a back rank checkmate? And if we were using this rook, we do. We have this rook right here. So this rook is protecting the king, so we can't move that rook right there. However, this rook over here on H2 doesn't have anything stopping it from going to the back rank. So we go there, that's checkmate. All right, let's keep it going. Oh, this looks fun. Okay, so right off the bat. Okay, so here's what we want to take notice of. So there's obviously a lot of things going on here. We have this queen right here on H4, which is cutting off this whole that whole H file. We have this rook here on E8, which is cutting off the whole E file. Because remember, rooks and queens, but definitely rooks, thrive on open files. So we have this knight right here, which can attack this pawn and is also attacking or controlling that square, which is good because that means this queen can come here. This queen can come here, put the king in check, and then we need to figure out a way to put the king in checkmate from there. So let's start with the obvious here. The obvious is moving the queen there to get the king to move over there. Now, what do we need to do? Oh, you know, we have two knights that attack this square, so maybe one. Actually, how do we go about this? What's the best way to go about this? Oh, you know what? That's the best way to go about this. Okay, so, okay, so we put the king in check. They moved over to this square. Now what we want to do is we want to put the king in check again. Now we're going to put the king in check with this knight here. Let's see what we want to do for us. Okay, let's put this out there. So sometimes, depending on the situation of the board, you can see a checkmate, but there's a piece stopping that checkmate. In this case, we know this rook is here on the e-file, so the king can't move there if it was under attack. The queen would love to go to this h1 square, but again, this knight is in the way. So what we need to do is we need to get rid of this knight first. The best way to get rid of this knight is by taking this knight, which at the same time is going to put the king in check. So the king has to take this knight back. But the king, if the knight weren't putting the king in check, it would be good for white because then they can come up with some counterplay by putting black in check. But they can't in this case because black is putting the king in check, which means black can move forward with their plan to get to this h1 square. So we make this move. White decided to take with the pawn. Okay. It's not really gonna make a difference because this knight right here is protecting the square. So white could have taken with the pawn, which it did. It could have taken with the queen, which it did, and it could have taken with this bishop. Didn't matter. So this square is protected. That square is protected. The square is blocked by white's own piece. Now we have free range to go to the square we want to go to, h1. This is checkmate. All right, let's do another one. Okay, so this one is pretty simple. So black decided to move his knight that was here. White pushed his pawn up here to attack black's knight right here. Black decided, okay, my knight is pretty valuable. Even though in this case, it would have been better for black to just let the knight go. And you're about to see why soon. So somewhere in the beginning of the opening, white moved his bishop from f1 to c4. So c4 is eyeing down this weak f7 pawn for black. Then white also got its queen to a very active square here on f3, which is also eyeing down the f2 pawn. So, and a checkmate can happen when these two pieces are allowed to come together. So the only thing that was stopping these pieces from coming together was the knight right here. So by white choosing to move this pawn up to attack this knight, black had to make a decision. Move the knight to keep the knight, which again, in any other circumstance would probably be the best thing to do, or lose the knight, and live to fight on. So they chose to keep the knight, which was the wrong move. Now this is checkmate because the king, the queen is attacking all these squares just by being here and being backed up by the bishop. All right, let's do two more. Okay, so this was similar to a puzzle we talked about yesterday. I talked about how the the F and the G pawns are important as far as blocking and protecting, giving the king some support on the some protection on the king side. So when we looked at it before, it was for white. Now we're looking at it from black standpoint. So black doesn't have a pawn on G because obviously it was taken here. It looks like there was an exchange going on with the E pawn and the F pawn and the G pawn. So the G pawn is here on F, but there's no pawn here on on the G file. So this diagonal is open. Now white just happens to have this queen. They can go here, put the king in check, and black has no defense from against it. So this is a checkmate. Queen is eyeing down, directly attacking the king, and the king cannot do anything about it. So this is what makes this f7 pawn and this f2 pawn dangerous for each side. That the only protection it has is the king. Now if you had a g pawn, this f7 pawn could be in less danger, because you can always push that g pawn to protect, to block the attack. But since there was an exchange here, and the g pawn ended up moving to the f pawn, and there's no pawn here on the g file, that left the black's king open for a direct attack. All right, let's do one more. Okay, so so white would love if it can attack here, because here will be a checkmate if this rook can move there. So what could we do here? And then if this queen wasn't here, then white could always jump there, and that would be a checkmate, because black obviously couldn't move right here. So what could we do here? Okay, well, we can move the queen up, which would be checkmate. This bishop right here is eyeing down the white diagonal, so these two squares are out. Once the queen comes from here to here, this whole row is out, this diagonal is out. These two squares have black's pieces on it, so this is it. You know, that's black is in that center, is in the center, in that little box where you know, all the moves, all the possible squares black's king could go to, it can't go to. All right, bonus, we're gonna do one more. All right. Okay, so what do we have here? Okay, so in this instance, what we have here, so white decided to move that g pawn up to attack both the queen and the rook. So by doing that, they're forking the queen and the rook, but they're also weakening their defense in the middle of the board. So, and white actually has this nice fork, moving its king here, or knight here, which is going to be attacking this king and attacking white's queen. But is that the right way to go, though? That's the question. Let's see here. So I'm gonna do that. Okay, they move up. Oh, okay. I see. So by doing that, the king has to move. By moving the knight, the king has to move. Now, in less experienced player would see that, okay, they can take the queen, which is fine in the right situation. However, when you're attacking the king in very close quarters, where the king has very little space, it's important to look out to see if you have checkmate. See, the goal isn't to take all your opponent's pieces. The goal is to get checkmate. And in the process of getting checkmate, you would take as many of your opponent's pieces that you need to take. But you never want to get greedy. I've been greedy before with pieces, and it has come back to bite me. Sometimes, not all the time, because then again, my opponent might have been greedy, or they didn't they didn't attack me directly where I should have paid for being greedy. The purpose of chess is checkmate, not to gobble up all your opponent's pieces. It's better to get a quick checkmate, or to get a checkmate with by sacrificing some very important pieces, than it is to try to gobble up your opponent's pieces. So if black wanted to, it doesn't have to, but if black wanted to, it could decide, okay, well, white's going to take my queen next move anyway, so I might as well take their queen. But again, you gotta look at where the king is. King is in very close quarters here. So the king is in a center square where they have 8 spaces around it. So you check and see, okay, where can the king go if I were to try to make another attack on the king. So 1, 2, 3, 4. King can't go to half the spaces in the square because the king's own pieces are in the square. Now we need to see, okay, well, the king can't go there because of the queen. The king can't go to this square because of the knight. So the king would be able to go to this square right here. So that's the king's only move. So we need to see, okay, do we have a move that can prevent that? And we do. By bringing the queen here, this queen works just like how Rook works on the edge of a board in a T shape. So this queen would be attacking or controlling these squares on the T. And this knight is covering this square, and it's also backed up by this rook that, you know, we thought was going to get taken by this pawn. This is a checkmate. All right, so this is day 3. Again, if you guys, you know, just comment below if you like the videos I'm putting out, these type of videos, because right now I'm going to do this daily for the next 30 days or so, and then after that I might try something else to do. But this, at least for the first week or so, this will give you guys a good demonstration of different checkmates to look out for. Because remember what I was saying before, so there are 3 phases to the game: the opening, the middle game, and the end game. The end game is very important because the end game is where a lot of checkmates happen. However, you can get a checkmate in the opening, you can get it in the middle game. You don't have to wait till the end game to get a checkmate. As you get more skilled, you will get more checkmates in the end game. But as you're beginning to look out, you know, as you're beginning to get better at chess, it's important to know the different checkmates. That way you can look for them no matter where you are on the board. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Comment below and tell me what your thoughts on the video and what you think the next set of puzzles for the next week should be. Until then, I'll see you guys next video. Take care.